in just a second, I'm going to be introducing author Jill Paul, and we're going to be talking about this book right here, Another Woman's Husband, which came out in August. And I had talking to Jill, I talked to her like last year sometime, and I love her. She is so incredibly sweet, and she writes the best books. And you know what? Today is such an amazing day to be talking to her because Princess Eugenie got married. I woke up this morning to the news because, they're ahead of time. And I was looking at all the pictures and I was like, oh my God, I get to talk to Jill today. And she's in England. So we're going to get like the scoop. I get to hear how exciting it was. And, they love their weddings. They love a good royal wedding. So everybody, here is Jill. Hi everyone, I am so excited because I am speaking again with author Jill Paul, and we are talking about her book that came out this August, her newest book called, she's going to hold it up, Another Woman's Husband. And I love this book so much, but I told you when I woke up this morning, I was like, oh my gosh, I get to talk to Jill today, and there was a royal wedding. How awesome is that?
It's really good timing. Yes.
It really is, because we were supposed to talk in the beginning of the week, and then my phone, the book was on my phone, and I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it on. I was having all kinds of issues with it. So we were supposed to talk earlier, but then today worked out to be very perfect.
Perfect. Absolutely. Yes.
So did you watch the wedding?
I haven't, no. I've been working today. I've watched little bits of it in the news.
Isn't it
But
weird?
she looked gorgeous. She looked amazing.
And
it's so beautiful, Windsor Chapel. It's a lovely, intimate setting. I mean, I know they've got like 850 guests, but it's quite an intimate little place, not like one of the big London cathedrals.
I was wondering why Friday.
Maybe that's just what everyone could make.
Oh, okay.
No.
I was like, is there something I don't know about, like, that they picked it on a Friday, that it had to happen then? Because that's kind of weird. But, yeah, and you know what? I saw a picture of Prince Andrew, who I haven't seen in a while, for some reason. And I was like, whoa, he has aged. I haven't seen him in a while. But because, you know what? I watched The Crown, okay?
It's so amazing. I love The Crown. I just love what they're doing with historical fiction, the way they kind of bring to life those scenes behind the closed doors that we never really get to see. I mean, it's kind of a soap opera, right, but historically it's very accurate. They don't change the facts. They obviously have to skirt around the libel laws a bit because we've got much stronger libel laws in the UK than in America. And so when they were hinting, for example, about Prince Philip's affairs with, all kinds of people. If you Google, you'll get loads of names. I'm not going to repeat them here. Yes. They just show kind of a shadow in the background or a hand on an arm. So nothing's exactly stated. It's just implied. Yeah. But no, The Crown is amazing.
It really is, because for me, it does, I've done so much reading on that time period, and I love, even before I started reading historical fiction, I was following the royal family, but it brought her to life in a very different way, and see her younger, like self and what she had to go through in kind of real time, kind of just real, but then reading this, Another Woman's Husband, because they bring this up. In the book,
yes.
in the
yes.
show, they bring this up.
I think The Crown is quite unkind to Wallis and Edward, especially with regard to their war record, but it's probably all true. They were really stupid, I'd say, in terms of their still talking to Nazis while Britain was at war with Germany. I mean, it was just idiotic in his position. What was he thinking?
Yeah, and I loved how The Crown, and you can tell me how true to life this was, but, it seemed like she really, she harbored a little bit of resentment towards him because it threw her into something she didn't know that was what was going to happen for her. And, they kind of really act that out in the, I'm here, look what happened in my life because of your life.
Yeah.
Because of choices you've made, look where I am, even because it directly, trickled down to her,
Loads of people say she didn't want him to abdicate. She didn't want to be the wife of a prince in exile. She wanted to either be queen herself or to carry on being mistress to a king, which is quite, it's a lovely privileged traditional position. I mean, nobody knows for sure. And certainly in her autobiography, which she wrote in 1956, she says they were just in love and it was inescapable. They had to be together. but a lot of her friends would say differently. And, whether they were happy in later life, there's lots of people write in their autobiographies about them always arguing and her dragging him along through parties with a kind of hangdog expression and speaking very rudely to him in company. But there's two sides to every relationship, aren't there? When I decided to write about Wallace this time, I was kind of annoyed at the biographer's take on her, which is always, she always comes off as evil, really. The husband stealing and having affairs all over the place. And there's all sorts of scurrilous rumour about, a lot of male biographers talk about the affairs she's supposed to have had and the secret techniques that she supposedly learned in a Chinese brothel, which nobody's ever quite specific about. But it just seemed to me I wanted to really readdress what she was like, which is why, as you know, I decided to view her through the eyes of her school friend, Mary Kirk,
right.
A real woman who she met in 1911 at summer camp, who stayed her friend right up to the abdication crisis of 1936. So Mary knew where Wallace came from, what made her the way she was. She knew her good points and her bad points. And that's why I chose her as a vehicle to look at Wallace through the novel. And sure, she still doesn't come out squeaky clean,
I don't know that any of us would. I don't know.
No, exactly. Exactly. But
I did feel a little bit more sympathy towards her, because even when watching her in The Crown and seeing that Queen Elizabeth really, like, to see that she had to allow them back in, like, that was crazy. I didn't really understand that dynamic, the role she played in them, like in their relationship, and that was interesting.
Well, the Queen's mother would never have let Wallace back in the country. She hated her with a passion. I mean, Wallace and Edward used to call her Cookie, and they were Wallace seemingly did a brilliant, rather cruel imitation of her, so that didn't go down too well. But no, the Queen bridged that gap, and Prince Charles did as well. He went over and saw the Duke and Duchess in Paris a few times when they were elderly and quite infirm by then. But, the olive branch had been held out. And when the Duke died, they let her have the funeral at Windsor Chapel.
Right. Because you're talking about family. It's like, to them, it's like when we look at them, we're like, what has to go, or what's the, what's the protocol. But for them, I mean, he was family. So
exactly. Yes, he's the Queen's uncle.
Right.
Very close. Yeah.
Right. And she seemed to have liked him a little. I don't know. I got the feeling that she liked him.
She did. I think they brought out in The Crown that he always wanted to be given a job, but nobody in authority at the palace trusted him. Because of the wartime experiences, what he got up to. They think he may have accidentally or otherwise handed some secrets to the Germans about the plans to defend Belgium, just over a drink one evening. I mean, he wasn't that bright, you get the impression. I think Wallace was much smarter than him.
Yes.
And the two of them meeting Hitler in 1937, what were they thinking?
Right. Oh, that was crazy. Well, I love this book so much. I love how you do the two timelines. And, so we start off with the one timeline in 1997 with Princess Diana's death. And in the back of your book, and everybody, when you read this book, like, you're just going to love the back. She's got so many notes, and I just love that. Because I enjoy reading the back, after I'm done with the book. I enjoy that just as much, Yeah. And I love how you point out that we all kind of, well, not all of us, but kind of had that Diana syndrome, like when she died, because I did. Like, I followed her so closely. I was so invested in her and hated Charles at times, and, and the boys, and, but when that funeral, I had to wake up at like 4:00 in the morning. I did. In order to see it. And I remember sitting on my couch and crying more than I think I've cried for most of my relatives. Like, it was insane. I didn't see it coming. Like, as I'm watching it, I'm just hysterically crying. And we, like, what? I don't know. She had that connection. I don't, it's unbelievable. Like, that she could do that.
It really was. It's just so random and so incongruous that such a glamorous, beautiful woman would die in a concrete tunnel, the victim of a drunk driver. It just doesn't fit. It doesn't work. It's the wrong ending somehow.
Right.
A lot of people felt that.
Yeah, in other words, like, I remember thinking, like, she was gonna live. Like, you get the last word is that, oh, of course she's gonna live. Like, of course. Yeah. Like, there wasn't a question. And then when you get the news that she died, you're like, what?
No,
that doesn't make sense. It's not real life. And it almost puts into question everything around you. I think that that's kind of what happened too. It kind of makes you realize how fragile, you know, if she can be in this accident in a tunnel that paparazzi are following, and, you know, then you start rethinking your whole entire life, you know?
Well, really. And that's probably why in the months after the accident, 85% of British people polled thought there was something fishy about it, that some secret services had been involved, or there was some plot or something. I mean, 85% is a huge amount.
Yes. Yeah, and do you remember that scene of her right before she had gotten in, like, they had a camera at that hotel?
And so the Ritz, yeah.
Yeah, so we got to see her, like, how insane is that? Like, minutes before she gets into the car. Like, when does that ever happen? When, I don't know. It was just...
Isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's right. And, you know, the spark for my novel was learning that just hours before she died that day, she had visited Wallace Simpson's house in Paris.
Yeah.
And nobody has ever explained properly why she was there. Because Dodi's father, Mohammed El-Fayed, was claiming afterwards that they'd been engaged and they were going to get married and that they were thinking of living in that house. But Diana's friends don't believe it for a moment. They said she was having a lovely time with Dodi, but they'd only known each other a few weeks, and she was not dumb enough to get married to somebody she'd only known a few weeks.
Yeah.
The house was completely wrong for them. It's very much overlooked. It's in the middle of the Bois de Boulogne in Paris, and people could just stand at the railings and look in at them the whole time. So it doesn't work from that point of view. And then the employees there said afterwards that they were only there for 28 minutes and Diana stayed in a downstairs office the whole time. So I thought, she definitely wasn't thinking of living there. So why were they there, and why has it never been explained? So that was the starting point of my novel, that I wanted to answer that question, but also to look at what Diana and Wallace had in common, because there was quite a lot. You know, well, for a start, they married into the same family. They were both persecuted by the media at different points in their life. They were both fashion icons. They had difficult childhoods, eating disorders, probably both of them. Certainly Diana confessed to hers. Yeah. And Wallace has one of her famous quotations is, she says, "All my friends know I would rather shop than eat." So
right.
She was thin as a stick.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot in common between them. So I hope to explore that a bit in the novel, as well as explaining why Diana might have gone to the house that day.
Yeah, well, I love reading your books. So, I mean, this one was just amazing. And, you know, I couldn't figure out, like, I was going back and forth between the timelines. I love them both so much. You know, like, there wasn't one, I don't know, I would get stuck on one and then be like, okay. All right. And then I'd be like, oh, I don't want to give that one up again. And then, you know, so I kept going back and forth. But I always love pointing out when an author, the last line of that first chapter, because as a reader, you've got to get to chapter 2. And so I always think, like, especially now that I read so much, I see that it's like, it's that very ending, and the way you ended it was so amazing, because I went back and I read it again, and you say, Jesus Christ, Rachel, it's Princess Diana. And, you know, I read it, when I read it the first time, I got chills. And of course I know it's coming, but and then the second time it still happened. And I was like, so I have to tell Jill, like, that's just because there are so many books out there and every reader wants to go to that next chapter, because then you're hooked. For me, that's like, once you get to chapter 2, you're in the book. You know, you're in.
Oh, I'm going to remember this for all my future novels. Last line of first chapter, especially for Michelle. I'll think of you.
Because it's actually the last line I read of your book. Because I go back and I reread that first chapter, and I want to see, even if I read it in one day, I want to see the setup, because you forget. You're like, where did we start again? Where did we, you know, and it's like, oh, that's right. We started with right there. And I was like, and then when you read that as my literal last line, I mean, isn't that perfect?
Yeah. Good. I'm glad it worked. But you will make me think of that. I'll always think of you from now on when I'm writing the last sentence of the first
Good, because I have been, I started doing it with thrillers, and then I saw that it's worked with everything, and I was like,
Yeah.
isn't that interesting? It always works, So I always like
Okay.
to point it out. I don't point it out if I don't get it, but I always point it out if I see it. So,
Good.
but hold up your cover again. I want to show everybody because your covers are so beautiful. I love the colors. I mean that. And,
hang on a minute. That's the British cover. Wait.
Oh, we have that's the only cover I saw.
I did it wrong. This is the American cover. They're very similar.
They're so similar.
Same, but they just sort of changed the colouring a bit.
Yeah,
I
okay.
don't know which you prefer.
Yeah, no, I like them both. I see that the American version's a little darker on top, but they're both beautiful.
It's got sort of orange instead of pink, but otherwise the same.
Yeah, and of course we do not give spoilers, but and even knowing how it ends, you still ended it amazing. Like even though we know, and it's like the way you ended it, I was like, oh my god, that's so perfect.
Oh, good. I'm glad you think so.
Yes.
I mean, I do try to. You don't have to, as a historical novelist. You don't actually have to tell the truth. It is a novel. But when I'm writing about real people, I do like to stick to the facts as much as I can.
And that was a great
stick to the exact timeline of events as well. And if I change them a little bit for the sake of a good story, I'll always confess in my historical afterword, and so because I don't want to rewrite history completely. So if I've twisted something a little bit, I'll explain later.
Yes. So I know you have a book coming out next year, because I'd gotten confused. I had seen it on Facebook, and then I'm like, wait, is that out now? Like I got all confused, but it's coming out next year, right?
It's so confusing at the moment because it actually comes out in the UK next week, and it's this one.
Oh, that's what. Okay, so it does come out next, but then for us it doesn't.
Next summer. It's just crazy. Like UK and US publishers got out of joint somehow. I'm going to make sure they get back together for 2020.
Makes me want to just, get on my UK, somehow get my UK thing. try to get on my UK Amazon. Every once in a while I can get, I don't know what happens. Somebody sends me like a link to UK Amazon and I get in, but then it like boots me out and I'm like, no, I want to be on UK Amazon.
That's cool.
I know.
You can actually order physical copies of the book, I think, but not the Kindle ones from the UK. Okay. But I think it will be next July. To be out in the US. And this is another Romanovs one because we spoke before about The Secret Wife, about Dmitri and Tatiana last year. And this is about another of the daughters. It's about Maria, the middle daughter, who, as I was saying to you, everybody's commenting today how much she looks like Eugenie, who just got married. There's a real similarity, and they are related, but quite distantly. Yeah. Prince Philip, let me get this right. Prince Philip was the great nephew of Maria's mother, Alexandra.
Right. I was like, wait, you gotta...
So that, I can't figure out what that makes them, but they are blood relatives.
And how about the fact that the Romanovs, that TV show, is coming out really soon?
It comes out today in the UK. I'm going to watch the first episode tonight.
I think it does. I think it comes on Netflix today, right? I think it does. What's the date?
Yeah.
The 12th.
Amazon Prime.
Yeah, I have to check it out too. I know. I'm so excited. But you know what? Whenever you want to talk about that next book, The Lost Daughter, like just get me one and we will, and we can chat about it because I can't wait to read it.
It'd be lovely. I'd love to.
Yes. Because first of all, I love the Romanovs, and like I've read so many books on it but I still get confused. Like I always am like, okay, there's so many different relative connections in Europe to get them all straight, when it comes to the royals.
Yes, I know. There's still so many branches of the Romanov family in America, in Europe, Germany, all over the place. They do crop up.
Yeah, and then next time we talk, we'll have watched it, so then we can talk about the show.
Let's do that. That'd be fantastic.
Okay, so everybody, I'm going to put all of Jill's links listed below, and then you can get that book on Amazon now because it came out like in August, I guess. And then we can look forward to your next book. And like I said, whenever you get me a copy, I'll read it. We'll talk about it. It'll be awesome. Thank you so much, Jill.
You're a superstar. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. My gosh, I love Jill so much. I could talk to her all day. I love her. She is so sweet and she writes the best books. So everybody go and get that book. I will have the links listed below and hopefully I can get the other one like really soon and then I can talk to her again. So thank you for watching, everyone.